It's August 28, 2003, Erie, Pennsylvania. Just after lunchtime on a quiet Thursday afternoon, the phone rings at Mamma Mia's Pizzeria, a local spot known for fast slices and friendly service. Brian Wells, a 46-year-old pizza delivery driver, picks up the order. Nothing unusual at first. The caller gives instructions. 2 pizzas to be delivered to the end of a dirt road just outside the city. Brian, a bit confused by the odd location, shrugs it off. This isn't the first strange address he's delivered to. He boxes up the order, grabs his keys, and heads out. What no one knows at that moment, not his co-workers, not his customers, is that Brian Wells is walking into one of the most bizarre and terrifying crimes the FBI has ever investigated. Roughly an hour later, police respond to a robbery at PNC Bank. Witnesses are stunned. A man with a cane walked in, handed the teller a note, and lifted his shirt. Around his neck, what looked like a heavy metal collar. Attached to it, a device that appeared to be a bomb. The man calmly explained that the bomb would detonate unless they handed him cash. He said he had a limited amount of time. The teller, visibly shaken, stuffed money into a bag. The man walked out, almost casually, and sat down near McDonald's across the parking lot. Within minutes, police swarmed the area and placed him under arrest. It was Brian Wells. He was handcuffed and placed on the ground near a patrol car. Officers stepped back, unsure what exactly they were dealing with. "He kept saying it wasn't his fault," said one of the responding officers. "He told us he was forced to do it, that the bomb wasn't fake, that it would go off. And then, in the middle of the street, in broad daylight, it did." The sound of the explosion echoed across the intersection. Officers standing just feet away were frozen in place. No one had expected it to actually happen. The device around Brian Wells's neck had detonated, just as he had warned. The blast killed him almost instantly. Paramedics on standby rushed in, but it was too late. "This was something out of a nightmare," said Chief Steve Franklin of the Erie Police Department. "We'd never seen anything like it." And no one had any answers. Police cordoned off the entire area. News crews began to gather within minutes. The footage that was captured, of Brian lying on the pavement, of officers taking cover, of stunned bystanders, would later become some of the most unforgettable images in modern true crime history. The FBI joined the investigation that very evening. Agents from the Pittsburgh field office arrived on scene to assist Erie PD. Special Agent Jerry Clark was one of the first to be briefed. "At first," he recalled, "we thought this might have been a suicide attempt. But the more we learned, the stranger it got. Nothing made sense." Back at the scene, the bomb squad examined what was left of the device. It was crude, but extremely complex. Wires, cell phone triggers, locking mechanisms. It hadn't been thrown together at the last minute. It had been built with planning, time, and intent. Investigators also found a set of handwritten notes in Brian's car, detailed instructions, written like a twisted scavenger hunt. Step by step, they outlined what Brian was supposed to do: rob the bank, follow a series of timed locations, and eventually find keys that would disarm the bomb. But the notes read more like a game, filled with strange threats, warnings, and puzzles. Whoever had written them wanted to make sure Brian had no choice and no way out. This wasn't just a robbery, Agent Clark said. This was psychological warfare. The FBI had a corpse, a collar bomb, and a bizarre trail of riddles. But no suspects. Not yet. Over the next several days, FBI agents and local police followed the path described in the notes found in Brian Wells' car. The directions led to various sites around Erie: telephone poles, road signs, hidden containers. But the trail was already cold. Whoever had planned the route clearly never expected it to be followed by law enforcement. "They sent him on a scavenger hunt," said Agent Jerry Clark. But it was a setup. There was no way he could have completed it in time, even if he tried. Investigators quickly realized something even more disturbing. The notes weren't just instructions. They were threats. If Brian went to police, the bomb would explode. If he didn't follow the path quickly enough, same result. It was control through fear, disguised as a game. At the autopsy, it was confirmed Brian had been killed by a sophisticated, real explosive. The collar bomb had multiple layers of security, a tamper-proof system that would go off if anyone tried to remove it. This wasn't something made in someone's garage over a weekend. It had design. That meant planning, resources, and likely more than one person. Meanwhile, agents began digging into Brian's background. No serious criminal history. He lived alone, delivered pizzas, and played the drums in a local cover band. By all accounts, he was quiet, polite, and kept to himself. So why him? That question led the FBI to his last known delivery, a dirt road near a TV transmission tower, about 10 miles from town. There, agents found something chilling. Evidence that Brian had been ambushed. There were fresh tire tracks, a chair with restraints, and pieces of tape matching what had been used on him. Whoever had strapped the bomb to Brian did it there, before sending him off on his fatal route. This was premeditated, said Agent Clark. They had him. They used him. Then they discarded him. The case had officially shifted. This wasn't just about a robbery anymore. It was murder. As weeks passed, the investigation hit wall after wall. But then a strange tip came in, one that would crack the entire case open. A man named Bill Rothstein contacted the police and told them there was a dead body in his garage freezer. Not just any body. He claimed it belonged to his ex-girlfriend's boyfriend, and that she had murdered him. Police responded immediately. When they arrived at Rothstein's house, they found the body just where he said it would be, stuffed in a chest freezer, wrapped in plastic. That woman's name was Marjorie Diehl-Armstrong. She was known to local law enforcement, highly intelligent, but severely unstable, a diagnosed bipolar, paranoid woman with a history of erratic behavior, and a list of dead men in her past. 2 of her former partners had died under suspicious circumstances. At first, it seemed unrelated to the pizza bomber case, just another strange Erie crime. But the more agents dug, the more connections they found. Rothstein, calm, articulate, and manipulative, had previously worked as a teacher and handyman. But in the weeks before Brian Wells' death, he'd been seen near the site of the collar ambush. He also lived less than 2 miles from the TV tower. When pressed, Rothstein admitted something stunning. He had helped build the collar device. He was extremely smart, said Special Agent Jerry Clark. The kind of man who thought he could outsmart everyone in the room. But Rothstein didn't act alone. According to new witness interviews, Marjorie had played a central role in planning the robbery, even suggesting that the money could be used to hire a hitman to kill her own father. She believed he was trying to control her inheritance. What began as a bizarre robbery had unraveled into a web of mental illness, manipulation, and murder for hire. Still, both Rothstein and Marjorie denied involvement in Brian Wells' death. But someone was lying. Under pressure, the people involved started to turn on each other. Marjorie Diehl-Armstrong was arrested in connection with the freezer body, but while in custody, she began to talk. Not everything she said made sense, but one thing was clear. She knew more about the collar bomb than she initially let on. She wanted to control the narrative, said Agent Jerry Clark. But every time she tried, she gave us more than she realized. Eventually, it became undeniable. Marjorie had helped plan the robbery. She recruited Bill Rothstein and several others. They had built the bomb together. They had written the notes. They had used Brian Wells as a pawn, someone they believed was weak, someone they could manipulate. But there was one detail that shocked even the most experienced investigators. Brian may not have been a complete hostage. One witness, a friend of Marjorie's, came forward and claimed Brian had known about the robbery in advance, that he'd agreed to participate, that he thought the bomb was fake. Whether that was true or not, no one would ever know. But if Brian had been involved, even passively, it changed the entire perception of the case. He might have thought it was a joke, said Clark. But the people he was dealing with, they weren't joking. The case grew more tangled. Along with Rothstein and Marjorie, another man, Kenneth Barnes, was arrested, a drug dealer and friend of Marjorie's. He confirmed under oath that the entire plot had been Marjorie's idea, and that she planned to use the robbery money to pay him to kill her father. It was a bizarre triangle of greed, mental instability, and cold calculation. With multiple confessions, evidence of planning, and detailed testimonies, the FBI finally had enough to close the case. Still, one thing remained. The question of Brian Wells. Was he a victim or a reluctant accomplice who misjudged the people he was dealing with? To this day, the debate continues. Years later, the case was officially closed, but the story never really ended. Bill Rothstein died of cancer in 2004, just months after the investigation began pointing at him. He never stood trial, and he never gave a full confession. Some agents still believe he was the true mastermind, the only one who fully understood the entire plan. Marjorie Diehl-Armstrong was charged with multiple federal crimes, including armed bank robbery, use of a destructive device, and conspiracy to commit murder. In 2011, she was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She never admitted full responsibility, not for Brian Wells, not for the bomb. She was incredibly intelligent, said Special Agent Jerry Clark, but she was also deeply disturbed and incredibly dangerous. Marjorie died in 2017 of breast cancer while serving her sentence at a federal prison in Texas. Kenneth Barnes, the man allegedly hired to kill Marjorie's father, was also convicted and sentenced to 45 years. He later cooperated with the FBI, filling in many missing pieces of the puzzle, including Brian Wells' possible involvement. Still, not everyone believes Brian was in on it. His family insists he was innocent, tricked, forced, and terrified. The FBI officially listed him as a victim, but the public remains divided. The collar bomb case, later dubbed by the media as the pizza bomber case, remains one of the most bizarre and complex crimes in modern FBI history. It's been featured in documentaries, podcasts, and Netflix specials. But behind the headlines was a man, a quiet pizza delivery driver, who got caught in something far darker than he ever could have imagined. And even now, decades later, one question still lingers. Did Brian know? Or was he simply in the wrong place at the worst possible time?